Imagine you are sitting in a cozy little bistro in the heart of Rome. You have a steaming plate of spaghetti pomodoro in front of you. The sauce is rich, red, and smells like heaven. It feels like the very soul of Italy, right? Wrong. If you were sitting in that same spot 550 years ago, that sauce would be a biological impossibility. There were no tomatoes in Italy, none. Zip. If you had offered a tomato to a Roman centurion, he would have probably stabbed you for trying to feed him a poisonous berry from another dimension. Or think about the spicy kick of a Thai curry or a Sichuan hot pot, that fiery heat. It comes from chili peppers. But before the year 1492, there was not a single chili pepper in the entire continent of Asia. There were no potatoes in Ireland. There was no vanilla in France. There was no chocolate in Switzerland, and there were no coffee beans in South America. Our entire sense of what is local, what is traditional, and what belongs wears a giant, delicious lie. Today, we are going to peel back the layers of the greatest mystery in the history of life on Earth. We have been taught in school that Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, but that is not quite right. He did something much more radical. He did not just find it. He destroyed the old one and manufactured a brand new one. He triggered a biological Big Bang that is still echoing in your kitchen today. This is the story of the birth of the Homogenocene, the era where everything everywhere became exactly the same. Let us start with a small, dark secret from a garden. There is a tomato called the black crim. It is beautiful, almost purple, with a deep, smoky flavor. If you ask a gardening expert, they will tell you it is an heirloom variety from the Crimean Peninsula in Ukraine. It has been grown there for generations. It is a piece of their history. But how? The tomato is a plant that evolved in the Andes Mountains of South America. It is a tropical native. How did a plant from the Peruvian highlands become the pride and joy of a Ukrainian village thousands of miles away? This is the tomato paradox. It is the first clue in our mystery. For millions of years, the world was a collection of isolated islands of evolution. Then, a lost Italian sailor under the Spanish flag crashed his boat into a beach, and the walls between these islands came crashing down. To understand the scale of this, we have to go back, way back, 250 million years ago. The Earth did not look like it does today. There were no separate continents. There was just one giant, massive slab of land called Pangaea. You could have walked from New York to West Africa without getting your feet wet. But then, the tectonic plates began to grind and groan. The Earth split open. The Atlantic Ocean formed like a giant, widening moat. For the next 200 million years, life on both sides of that moat went its separate ways. It was like two different scientists running two different experiments in two different rooms. In one room, which we call the Old World, they developed cows, horses, wheat, and smallpox. In the other room, the New World, they developed llamas, turkeys, corn, and potatoes. These two worlds were as alien to each other as Mars is to Earth. They had different bugs, different trees, and different germs. And then comes 1492. Christopher Columbus sets sail. He thinks he is going to find a shortcut to the spice markets of India. He is looking for gold and glory. He has no idea that he is about to become a biological stapler. When his ships hit the sand of the Caribbean, he effectively stitched Pangaea back together. This was not just a meeting of two cultures. This was the most significant biological event since the extinction of the dinosaurs. Scientists have a name for this. They call it the Homogenocene. Homo means same. Gen means origin. We are living in the age of the same. Now, Columbus was a brilliant navigator, but as a leader, he was a total train wreck. In 1493, he came back to the New World with 17 ships and more than 1,200 men. He wanted to build a great Spanish city called La Isabela on the island of Hispaniola. He wanted it to be a paradise of marble and gold. It was a nightmare. He brought wheat seeds to plant, but the Caribbean climate was too hot and humid. The wheat rotted in the ground. The Spanish hidalgos, the noblemen he brought with him, refused to work. They were there to get rich, not to farm. They started starving. They got sick with strange tropical fevers. Within 5 years, La Isabela was a graveyard. It was a failed colony, a monument to human arrogance. But here is the twist. While the humans were failing, their biological luggage was winning. You see, Columbus did not just bring people. He brought a portable ecosystem. He brought pigs, cows, and goats. He brought seeds for onions and grapes. And he brought the things he did not mean to bring. Tucked into the hay for the horses were seeds of European grasses. Tucked into the cracks of the wooden hulls were insects. Tucked into the guts of the sailors were bacteria and viruses. Let us talk about the pigs. Columbus released 8 pigs onto the island of Hispaniola. Think about that number. Just 8. These were not the cute pink pigs you see on a farm. These were tough, mean, hairy Spanish pigs. And they loved the Caribbean. They had no natural predators. No lions, no tigers, no wolves. They looked around and realized the entire island was a giant buffet. They ate everything. They ate the native fruits. They ate the native lizards. They ate the eggs of the native birds. And they multiplied. Oh boy, did they multiply? Within a few decades, those 8 pigs had turned into hundreds of thousands. They were like a biological wildfire. They moved through the forests, reshaping the land as they went. By the time the next explorers arrived, they did not see a pristine wilderness. They saw a land that had already been chewed up and transformed by the vanguard of the Homogenocene. But the most effective invaders were the ones you could not even see. Let us talk about the secret weapon of the European conquest. It was not the gun. It was not even the steel sword. It was the earthworm. Yes, you heard me correctly. The humble, squishy earthworm. Before Columbus, the northern half of North America had no earthworms. They had all been wiped out during the last ice age. The forests there had evolved over 10,000 years to live without them. The trees depended on a thick layer of leaf litter on the forest floor to protect their roots and provide slow-release nutrients. When the Europeans arrived, they brought potted plants and soil in the ballast of their ships. Inside that soil were European earthworms. These worms were like tiny, hungry bulldozers. They ate the leaf litter at a terrifying speed. They changed the entire chemistry of the soil. Suddenly, the native trees could not survive. But you know what loved the new soil? European plants. The weeds that the settlers brought with them, like dandelions and plantain, felt right at home. The indigenous people called plantain the white man's footprint. They noticed that wherever a European walked, this new grass would spring up. It was like the land itself was being overwritten, like a computer hard drive being formatted for a new operating system. And then, of course, there were the germs. This is the dark, heavy part of the story. Because the old world and the new world had been separated for millions of years, their immune systems were completely different. People in Europe and Asia had lived alongside cows and pigs for millennia. They had developed resistance to diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza. The people of the Americas had no such history. They were biologically innocent. When Columbus and his successors arrived, they did not just bring trade goods. They brought an invisible army of death. Smallpox could travel faster than a horse. It would fly through a village, killing 90% of the people before a single European ever set foot there. Imagine you are a member of a powerful empire in the middle of North America. You hear rumors of strange men with metal skin on the coast. But before you ever see them, everyone you know starts to die. Your king dies. Your priests die. Your farmers die. The social fabric of your entire world unravels in a matter of weeks. When the Europeans finally showed up to conquer these areas, they often found ghost towns. They thought it was divine providence. They thought God had cleared the land for them. In reality, it was just the brutal math of the Homogenocene. This mass death had a strange side effect that changed the climate of the entire planet. This is a crazy detail that most people do not know. When tens of millions of indigenous farmers died, their farms and clearings were reclaimed by the forest. Billions of new trees grew up across the Americas. These trees breathed in massive amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. There was so much carbon being sucked out of the air that the Earth actually cooled down. This contributed to what historians call the Little Ice Age. Because Columbus moved some germs across the ocean, the Thames River in London started freezing over in the winter. That is the power of the biological Big Bang. But the exchange was not a one-way street. While the Americas were being biologically colonized, they were sending back their own heavy hitters. And the king of them all was the potato. Before the potato arrived in Europe, life was hard. Wheat and rye were finicky. If there was too much rain or a bad frost, the crop failed, and everyone starved. But the potato is a tank. It grows underground, protected from the wind and the cold. You can grow it in poor soil. You can grow it on the side of a mountain. When the potato hit northern Europe, the population exploded. For the first time in history, the average peasant had enough calories to survive. It ended famine in places like Ireland and Germany. It provided the fuel for the Industrial Revolution. Without the calories from the New World potato and the New World corn, Europe might have remained a collection of small, hungry backwater kingdoms. So, what is the point of all this? Is it just a history lesson? The point is that the world you see outside your window today is a managed, artificial creation. When you see a honeybee in your garden, Remember that they are not native to North America. They were brought over in ships to pollinate European crops. When you see a dandelion, you are looking at a European invader. We live in a world where the biological barriers have been deleted. We can buy a New Zealand apple in a New York supermarket in January. We can plant a Japanese maple in a London park. But there is a cost to this convenience. By stitching the world back together, we have made it more fragile. In the Homogenocene, a fungus that attacks bananas in a lab in one country can wipe out the entire world's supply in a few years. A virus that jumps from an animal to a human in one city can shut down the entire global economy in a matter of weeks. We have created a single, global biological system. It is efficient, it is productive, but it is also dangerously uniform. The story of Christopher Columbus is usually told as a story of explorers and maps, but the real story is much deeper. It is the story of how we ended the separate evolution of the continents. It is the story of how we began the long, messy process of turning the whole planet into one giant, interconnected farm. So, the next time you go to a pizza parlor, take a look at your toppings. The tomato from the Andes, the wheat from the Fertile Crescent, the onions from Central Asia, the sausage from pigs that originated in the Eurasian forests. That pizza is not just lunch. It is a map of the Homogenocene. It is the edible evidence of the day the world was broken and put back together in a completely different shape. Columbus did not find the new world. He took the two halves of the world and smashed them together with such force that they fused into one. We are just the people living in the aftermath of the explosion, eating our spicy chilies and our smoky tomatoes and pretending that this is how things have always been. But now you know the truth. The world is not a natural place. It is a manufactured one. And you are a part of the experiment. Welcome to the Homogenocene. It is a world of the same, born from a man who was lost, looking for a place that did not exist, and ending up changing everything forever. Stay curious, watch what you eat, and remember that sometimes the biggest revolutions are the ones growing quietly in your backyard.